Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today I want to talk about Dungeons & Dragons, and I want to talk about Curse Your Sudden But Inevitable Betrayal. All right, and let me lay this out for you. As a Dungeon Master, you must be betrayed by your players. Ooh, yeah, I said it. Let me explain why. Okay, so first of all, if you're here, thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I also want to say to everybody, thank you. I just passed 1.1 million views, right? Which means there's a possibility, the hope lives in my heart, that I will hit 2 million views on this channel one day. That's huge. That is a very, very exciting, right? And I just want to say thank you for that. Okay, all right. So let me explain something. This is pretty fascinating, right? So we got this situation, right, where so let me explain what we're talking about today. What we're talking about today is the Curse Your Sudden But Inevitable Betrayal event that all good dungeon masters should be hitting. And if you're not being betrayed by your friends, then you're not dungeon mastering right, in my humble opinion. All right, so I know that's a bold statement. Let me get you all the way there. So first of all, let's talk about Curse Your Sudden but Inevitable Betrayal. That is a delightful line that actually is pretty deep and sad and upsetting, that comes out of Firefly, a very deep, sad, and upsetting series, right? It is truly, pretty fascinating, right? And I had, in the last 4 years, I've had 2 Curse Your Sudden but Inevitable Betrayal events, and they were both the same. Okay, so first of all, let me explain them. So one was that in 4 years, I've had 2 gaming groups shatter up. One exploded, and one was cleaved in half. Okay, one was truly an explosion of friends and chaos and creativity when the group ended, and one of them was the group was just cut in half. It was cleaved. It was sundered. Right, like a log being cut by a skilled lumberjack, right? The other one was just like that same log being hit by a 50 caliber round, like just exploded apart in shrapnel, right? And honestly, there's still pieces that are being picked up from that thing, right? It was bad, right? So one was the Sunday home Dungeons and Dragons campaign, and the other one was the Thursday FLGS campaign, Dungeons and Dragons campaign, and I started them both, and both of them had the same arc. Me, dungeon mastering as the center, right? And inviting everybody and hosting and putting the whole thing together and making it all run and work, right? And then me, after I dropped these incredible Dungeons and Dragons campaigns, the players at every player at the table was like, oh my gosh, I could Dungeon Master too, and I could do something cool as well, right? Getting inspired. And then me recognizing, hey, I've been running for 2 months here. Hey, I could see your Dungeon Master curiosity there. Get in, let's do it, right? I want you up here, and I want you, doing something exciting and fresh and new, right? And bringing them in, and and allowing players to run, right? But then those players seeing me, and then them saying what'd you think, and me saying, well, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, and this is wrong, right? And then them like, and Scott isn't gonna like it until I do this, and this, right? Which is true, right? And then them saying, you know what, I'll betray Scott and take his players, right, and head off and start a new group, right? Now, when this happened the first time, I was very upset, right? When this happened the second time, I was like, oh, exactly what should have happened, right? Now, why should I be having explosions of gaming groups? And the reason why is high stakes Dungeons and Dragons, baby, right? I don't play for fun, right? You could do that with your cute little whatever you want, but I got no interest in that, right? I don't play for fun. It's stakes. We play to learn and grow. And when people learn and grow, they want the power, they want the value, they want the stakes, right? And I have charismatic, confident, intelligent people at my table, and other people want them, right? So they take them. They betray me and take them, right? Now, the last time this happened, One of my players came back later and was like, I want to play Dungeons and Dragons again with you, Dungeon Mastering. Great, let's run. And that spawned a new 6 month, the Thursday FO. That was the Sunday home game ended, and one of my players came back and said, how you doing? I said, I'm doing great. You want to play D&D? He was like, bet, I'm in, right, with you, Dungeon Mastering. And that turned into a 6 month Thursday FLGS game. I ended both games because I felt that, and the reason why is I'm telling you this, those players betrayed me, right, and tried to set up their own groups. And the moment they took an action toward that, if you try to set up your own group and take my players off, right, to another platform, gaming platform, I'm going to shut it down, right? And that's what's happened both times, right? And and so when this happens, we need to self-reflect. And so you're like, Scott, are you doing anything wrong? I'm not doing anything wrong, right? I'm doing it perfectly. In my humble opinion, I run high stakes Dungeons and Dragons where fun is not the point. The point is to learn and grow. And when people do, right, they're like, oh my gosh, I got superpowers. I want the Infinity Gauntlet. We were running a campaign where that was literal, but it became where it was figurative, but it became quite literal. Where they're like, oh my gosh, I've watched Scott Garibay Dungeon Master for 6 months. I can do it with my own group, and I can just take his players, right? Hey, I understand it. Curse your sudden but inevitable betrayal. And the reason why is this is the ramification of high stakes Dungeons and Dragons. If you're running for fun, nobody's going to take your crap, and everybody's going to sit there. Nobody's going to want to steal anything from you, right? They're going to sit there, and your game's going to run unchanged for 15 years with the same people and the same systems and the same nonsense, right? But if you actually play Dungeons and Dragons for what Gary Gygax built it for, in my humble opinion, which is growth and learning, you're going to have your sudden but inevitable betrayals, because people are going to flex their power. They're going to come into their power, and they're going to want to own it, and they're going to move forward, right? And the reality is, I have friends, right, who, I shed friends like dragons shed scales, and I'm not worried because there'll be new ones, right? And the reality is, I'm able, my FLGS game just ended because of betrayal of a player, stealing other players, running off to run a different game, right? I shut everything down and said, hey, you guys go off. And I did not hold it against the players who were stolen, right? I hold it against the dungeon master who takes players from me, right? And the reason why is, if you're a dungeon master, you're responsible. If you're a player, you're on the low tier, power level, and you're going to shift from table to table. That's just the way it is, right? But I do hold it against the dungeon masters who steal players from me, right? And I just tell them frankly, hey, we had this time. That time's done. I'm not going to sit at your table anymore, right? That is the repercussion of stealing players from me. I will not sit at your, that is my revenge. I'm not going to sit at your table again, ever. Right? And I have 2 people now who are in that bucket, which is sad, oh, and I will say, I'm a forgiving person, because there's a structure in my life that demands forgiveness. And if either one of them ever comes and gives a full unmitigated apology, I'll play at their tables again, but not until, right? And so it is very interesting. I find it very fascinating that this has happened twice. And I'm very convinced you should be playing my way. If you're not experiencing a sudden but inevitable betrayal every 3 years, then you're not doing anything at your table, right? This is the repercussions of playing high stakes Dungeons and Dragons, right? There are intellectual abrasions, there are emotional abrasions, there are spiritual abrasions. This is where we land, baby, right? And also, you're like, hey, Scott, you sure you're right there? I played in this Pokemon game during this 6 month period. I went into a Pokemon game, And I watched somebody who had dumped literally hundreds of hours of time into converting Pokemon to D&D 5e. And I watched his game for like 3 sessions, and I'm like, you are making a huge mistake. You're running a suck game, and you're expecting your players to wait a year before it gets cool and they're doing anything of significance. But you are on a clock. Your game is going to end. And you're going to be shocked when it does, because you never ran anything decent or exciting for your players. And that's exactly what happened. That dungeon master was spending far more energy, right? I told him it would happen. It totally happened. And he was shocked, right? And all of his work was for naught, right? So running Dungeons and Dragons for purpose and scale to learn and grow is rough. It's a rough activity, right? It's a journey, right? And you're going to go in the valley, and you're going to go to the peaks, and the wind will scrape you, right? You're going to fall in ditches. It's hard, right? You want to run some kind of nonsense fun Dungeons and Dragons, shove over to the right, shove over to the left, and you'll find some, nonsense D&D person giving you advice that they'll say at the end, everything I said didn't matter. Why'd you even listen to me? We're both idiots, right? That's not here, man. Like, I run D&D at stakes, with stakes, right? And it happens. Curse these 2 players, sudden but inevitable betrayal, right? But it's on me, and it will continue to happen, right? And because people learn and grow, and when they do, things change, right? And I'll challenge you. If you got the same people sitting at your table for 10 years, if you're running the same systems, right, and very little has changed, then your Dungeons and Dragons doesn't matter. It's useless, and you should throw it out. You should be being betrayed as a dungeon master. Every single word of that is my humble opinion. What's important is when I get to hear your humble opinion. When you get in the comments and send your traffic. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.